first in a series of events that we're doing. We're doing once a month for the rest of the year and into next year as well. So look out for more from us. I would like to start by introducing Coralie Winn. I hope you all know who you were coming to listen to. She is the director and co-founder of Gapfiller. After the September earthquake, Coralie and a group of other passionate people came together to bring some positivity, creativity and life back to Christchurch's empty spaces. Gapfiller has now completed 16 of its own major projects, and Coralie is going to share some of her stories with her tonight. Okay? Now while you're listening, you may come up with a few of your own ideas, things that might happen in Christchurch, things that might be good to do. If you do come with us, remember those ideas. Okay? Make a note on your phone or whatever, because at the end, not only will you get a chance to ask questions, you'll get a chance to provide those ideas and share them with the group. Okay? So without further ado, Coralie.
Hi everybody. Pardon? Yes please. We're going to go into the dark. You'll see my pretty pictures better that way. Alright. So, apologies for my croaky / husky voice. I got the end of a cold and I've done another talk today and I can feel it hanging in there. Alright, who here has heard of Gapfiller before coming into this room and having it said by him? Yeah, that's great. Can you tell me what projects you have encountered or heard of or interacted with? Or
Dance Mat.
Pardon?
Dance Mat.
Mat, great. Yeah, I've just come from Dance Mat. There's also one of the voices struggling because it was cold. Yeah. Anyone else?
The garden in Littleton.
Littleton? Oh, the Littleton Patrol Club. Yeah, cool. Anyone else?
Timber bowling.
Yeah. Timber bowling with coconuts as balls. Other projects?
French cinema.
French cinema. Did you come to that?
I was a little bit involved in designing.
Okay, through CPOT. Cool, thank you for that, by the way. That was great design work. Great. Anyone been to the book exchange in the fridge? Yeah. Pardon? You say so? So I just realised the way I said it, the book exchange in the fridge. It sounds like I didn't. No. All right. So Gapfiller is to talk momentarily. That one I'm going to press the button. I'm really not good with technical stuff. Gapfiller began, as Hamish said, after the September 4 quake, which is quite a long time ago now, if we think about all that's happened since. And it was started by 3 of us. And the reason for Gapfiller coming to be, one of the things was I lost my job, so I had a lot of time. But also because these gaps were occurring in the city. And you'll remember, we actually could go to the city then, but it was really struggling. And these gaps were, there's nothing that, normal people like us, we're not architects, planners, builders, we couldn't do anything to speed up the rebuilding of our city. So a few of us were thinking, well, what can we do now, right now? Because this situation with these gaps appearing is really depressing, and this, in the incredible future city that we're going to have, which is very exciting, green and cycle lanes and people friendly and less cars and this future city, that's a long way away, right? I mean, realistically, it is a very long way away, and this is the reality of the city and of some suburban area. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the whole eastern suburbs thing. That's another nightmare, but that's the reality. So if we think about that and that, what are we going to do with these spaces now? So I look at these spaces and I see possibilities, actually. But for many people, it's very overwhelming and very, very depressing. So, the very first gap, anyone know where this is? It actually, sadly, is still a gap today. Pardon?
Columbus.
Yeah, it is. And it was south of the border Mexican restaurant, to there, and this was Dennis Moore Auto Electrician. Two businesses that collapsed in the September quake, and that's what it became. That was the very first experiment. It was done very cheaply. It was with our own money. There were 3 initially, and we gathered 3 more people with us to make it happen. The people were, so there's Ryan, who's works here at the university in theatre and film studies and is involved in theatre. Me and Andrew Just, who's a young architect, and we gathered together an artist, another project manager, and a designer. And the 6 of us we sort of met around my kitchen table one Monday evening, and we said, okay, how much would you be willing to put in and not see back again to do this? And we came up with about $1,500. We didn't use all of that, but we made this space, and you would have seen the fake grass and potted plants and beach umbrellas. We created a public space on private land. And we screened films every night. We invited bands to play. We had 32 bands come and play in 2 weeks. Poetry readings by local poets. That's Tiote Jardine. I don't know if anyone knows poetry, but he's amazing. And this was open, and anyone could come and spend time here and have a coffee or eat their lunch, and then come to events in the evening. And it was an amazing experiment. And I think the thing I want to just go back to that one. The thing I want to underline about it was an experiment. It was done by normal, youngish people. It was to demonstrate that temporary projects could bring life to the city, that it wasn't just about what we built, that you could activate spaces temporarily to buy some time so we could think about the rebuild. Because I'll share something that I'm embarrassed about it now, but I'm happy to share it. We were worried about, with the Rugby World Cup coming, that there would be a rush to rebuild the city to fill all these ugly gaps, because the tourists would come and they would want to see these gaps. It's a bit naive, but honestly we were worried about a rush to rebuild after September, and so we wanted to say, think differently about these spaces, involve different people, activate them, bring life to the city, support businesses, and try something out, and hey, it might just work. And so that was the founding sort of idea behind Gapfiller. So after this very successful first project, people said, well, what are you going to do next? There was a lot of pressure on us to do exactly the same thing again, because it had worked really well. But we we really wanted to do something very different to demonstrate what was possible. And so this is our second project. That's Coca, the gallery in town, and just to the left is the Christchurch Art Gallery. And this wall was demolished with the posters on it still after the February quake. But it's an exhibition of German, it's a photographic essay documenting before and after change in Germany, after the Berlin Wall came down, and then 10 years after the Berlin Wall. And we thought that's really interesting for Christchurch, actually, to think about. Still remember, this is after September, what we might look like in 10 years' time. And I mean, after the February quake, what we might look like in 10 years' time is quite a much bigger question. After the February quake, and when the fog lifted and all the issues that we all faced started to be resolved, in my case, where am I going to live? Gapfiller put the word out to a community of people and said, what should we do? Should we stop? Is it appropriate that we do something? The city's closed. We wanted to work in the central city, but we couldn't go there. Should we work in the suburbs? And people said, yes, please keep going. Please do cinema, because there's no cinemas, and even if there are cinemas, we don't want to go in them. So we did an outdoor cinema project. We collaborated with Polytech to do, this is the bowling project that someone mentioned, and the coconut ball bowling balls, which was hilariously fun. And at this point still, Gapfiller didn't really have any money. So I was still volunteering a lot of my time. I actually did get paid to run this project by the Polytech, which was very exciting. And after this project, the money was nearly gone. I'd spent many months of my life working a hell of a lot in the expectation that at some point something would click and people would see this, that they would get this as being actually quite incredible or quite exciting. And after, when these things happen, you go really, really, really down, and you get really upset, and then the next week someone rings you up and says, we're going to give you $23,000 And you sort of go, wow. And that's what happened. So we got given some emergency money from Creative New Zealand, and Gapfiller suddenly, and around about that time also we became a charitable trust. Our trust deed was accepted, and suddenly this had, this was enduring, this was going on, and suddenly it became possible, like I might actually be able to find myself a job doing this. This might be what I can do, and that's what's happened. So the slides that you're going to see now are just various projects around the community that have happened. Littleton is a place close to my heart, and we've done a few things in Littleton. We've actually done one big project which has then sparked all sorts of other things going, and that's what really excites me about this sort of activity. It's not about Gapfiller, yeah, we're going to take over Christchurch and we'll sort out the gaps. It's actually about changing citywide, everybody, all of your attitudes towards vacant space, so that you carry that knowledge with you and you go out and make changes. So this is the working bee in Littleton. We built this, the Littleton Baton Club. If you know the lingo, it's called the LPC, which is also the Littleton Port Company, but don't tell them that. Baton pitch, space for live music, community garden, literally, like gifted by the community, and furniture, and people use this space all the time. It is a vital part of that community that was really destroyed after the earthquake, June particularly, and that space is on the main street. There was never a public space on the main street in Littleton before, and now there is temporarily, but it is very powerful. That's Heath. He's my mate, and the painter piano project with university students. So, yeah, has anyone heard of, you see the Emerging Leaders program here? Some people. So they wanted to do a project, and it just so happened that someone else had offered me a lot of pianos for a project, and I thought, oh, okay, students could paint them, and so they did, and they've gone out. That's on Ferry Road in Woolston. There are 3, and the students, one of the students in particular who took a lead on that, Rosie, it's made such an impact on her that she's now leading this year's New Leaders to do it again. And I didn't realise, but they've got 3 more pianos that they're painting, and I wasn't aware of that, but that's great. This is one of my bigger projects, a cycle-powered cinema. Once I had this Freudian slip when I was tired here, and I called it accidentally the psycho-powered cinema, which I don't know if you can imagine what that would look like. Go back. We'll go back to the psycho-powered cinema. But I just like to point out that that's Roger Sutton, who's a mad cycle man, and who I know from way back, but Roger came along. But this was, the great thing about this project was it developed over a long time. Mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, and a man that makes bicycle racks. And we developed this system from scratch. And it is on a ex-cycle shop. And we screened predominantly cycle films. I really like that kind of, so connected to the site. And the cycle shop owner, Keith Guthrie, who's one of Christchurch's most iconic cycle mechanics, that's Keith. For him to come, I heard from someone that when I went to talk to him about using his site for a cycle-powered cinema, he thought I was crazy. He actually did think I was crazy, I think. He's my cycle mechanic, by the way. But I heard him say, I overheard him say to someone that now he thinks I'm quite wonderful. And that's, okay, thanks Keith. But really, what that means is that to make this happen on his land, for him, imagine if you owned a cycle shop that had been destroyed in the quake, and then you see all these crazy people riding bikes to watch cycles. It's pretty special. Anyway, what I'd like to talk about with this project is, and I was just talking with Nikki about it, is we plan to, Gapfiller always wants to do new things, and